Yeah, buddy, just looking at the lineup, I noticed Tapia not in there. Um, are there any after effects from the whiplash the other night? I saw a couple balls drop in front of him. Those may have been reads or may have been just weak hits, but are there any after effects or what went into the decision today?
No after effects. The decision not to start him tonight, I think it was more about Bumgarner and trying to get some right-handed bats in there against the lefty. Tap will be able to come off the bench to help us win tonight in some capacity, but feeling no ill effects from the whiplash.
Okay. Hey, we were just talking to Sam Hilliard, and I remember during spring training, we asked you a lot of questions about him because his numbers weren't up there, but you were saying he was working on some things. What do you feel he succeeded at that he's carried into the season on a couple of really good swings for you? And how far does he still have to go?
Well, I think I think every young player, has ways to go to feel really comfortable in their own skin as a big leaguer. Sam has a lot of confidence in his ability. I love that about Sam. He continues to work on, shortening his swing. I think the strike zone discipline has been pretty good so far this season. Not a lot of chase, swinging for the most part at strikes. But again, I think the shortening of the swing, the effort level when he swings can be controlled, a little bit more consistently. I think that's something he's working on with the hitting coaches and just, internally. But he's got potential, right? You look at the skill set and the athleticism. Those are big league skills that play in big league games. We saw last night with one big swing with big power to tie the game. I thought he had a really good at bat when he took the walk, late in the game as well. So again, repetitions are needed with Sam against pitching, and hopefully that we can speed up the process of shortening that swing and controlling the effort level.
Hey, last one for me. With Charlie defensively, nice throw last night, did not get the runner, but still heck of a throw. He's thrown out a couple out there. How have you seen him develop as a right fielder since the time that you moved him over?
Well, you're right. I think Charlie's arm looks as good as we've seen it in the last couple of years. I thought he threw the ball great in spring training, and that's carried over here into the early part of the season. Charlie's a great student of the game, not only on offense, but on defense. He works in great unison with Ron Gideon, who does a lot of our outfield positioning along with our center fielder. He's a heady player. He's got good instincts for our pitcher, their hitter, counts. He made a good play last night on Walker's ball. That was a tough play.
Yeah.
Late in the game, made a nice catch. But does he have the range he had when he was in center field a number of years ago? Probably not. But he makes up for it with I think a good first step jump, instincts, knowing the hitters, knowing our pitchers again, reading swings. He's still a very solid defender.
Thank you, buddy.
You got it, Thomas.
Patrick Saunders.
Afternoon, buddy. How are you?
I'm well, Patrick. Good afternoon.
Couple questions for you. We were asking Sam Hilliard about this. I know it's super early, but you guys lead baseball right now in home runs, both in the numbers and also percentage of plate appearances. So my question for you is, what kind of power potential going forward do you think this club has if guys like Sam Hilliard and Rymack, et cetera, can continue to progress?
Well, there's some natural power in this group. We haven't, Charlie has one homer and Trev hasn't homered yet either. It's Crone. Crone and Trevor project to be, our big home run hitters. So their time is coming. But there's some raw power in the group with Mac and Hilliard, and Crone and Diaz and Charlie. There's some sneaky pop and Hampson and Owings. Tapia has a little sneaky pop, but I think, Tap needs to concentrate more on line drives and using the whole field. I think that's his strength. Sometimes Tap's swing can get a little big and long. I think we've seen that the last few games, after he hit his home run. But there's some power potential throughout the lineup. So, again, I mean, showing up early with a number of guys and sort of spread out, and even our middle of the order bats, 3, 4, 5, have hit just one. So that's hopefully a good sign of things to come.
My next question for you. First, I want to see if you agree with my observation. And if so, maybe you can take it from there. Seems to me that German Marquez, he seems to be struggling a little bit with fastball command out of the stretch. Am I seeing that right? That it looks a little bit different than when he's out of the windup, and it just doesn't seem quite to be tracking the way it should.
Yeah, a little bit. I know that after his first start, we identified, a couple things with his delivery. In simple terms, his balance point, the point of the delivery when your leg comes up and your knee comes up and you get, ready to separate your hands and come down the mound. He was a little quick. He was a little early coming down the mound. He hadn't really established himself over the rubber with a nice firm balance point. I thought he did much better last night in that regard out of the windup. Out of the stretch, you can be a little quick again. To your point, I agree with you. He's not really synced up out of the stretch just yet. So a lot has to do with that leg lift, and a little bit of that, just momentary pause where you gather yourself over the rubber and then start your descent down the mound with your separation and your arm action. So. We've talked so much about timing, rhythm and timing when it comes to hitting, but it also applies to pitching. And German is just a little bit off out in the stretch, and he was really off the first game out of the windup and the stretch. So, rhythm and timing balance is really, really important in any athletic movement. And German's just a little bit off right now.
But overall, his stuff's been pretty good.
Stuff's been great. I mean, this is the knock on wood, 2 games, the highest, velocities that he's consistently thrown. The breaking ball sharp. He threw a couple good changeups last night too. We've talked about the use of the changeup with, a lot of our pitchers, especially a lot of guys out of the bullpen. That needs to come, with German, and for German. But his arm feels good. His stuff's solid. Now we just got to get the delivery in order to help the consistency of his pitches.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Go to Tracy Ringolsby and then on to Pat Graham for the last question. Tracy, go ahead.
Yeah, but on Sam Hilliard, with his size and everything, he seems to have an excellent ability to steal bases. Do you have to be careful with that because as big as he is, or do you encourage it?
He is a big guy, Tracy, for sure. But he's powerful and he's fast, and he's got a strong desire to steal, which is, more than half the battle, to have that aggressive nature and the want to. So I don't ever want to take that away from him, especially, where he is now in his career as a, younger service time player. I don't want, players to back off and play at a level not at 100%. That's a weapon, so we're gonna use it. But again, I think there are techniques in regards to how you slide and how you come into second base, and right now the long range risk of pounding of the body with stolen bases. I don't think we're there with Sam. Nothing like the all-time stolen base leader Ricky Henderson. He withheld for a lot of years and stayed durable. I think that Sam has that type of body and that type of mentality that I think he's going to stay durable. I do. I mean, That's just me. So, you know, I don't want to take any part of this game away from this game.
Thank you.
All right, Pat Graham with the last questions.
Hey, buddy, how's it going?
Going great.
Hey, so John Gray was saying that he sometimes centers himself on the mound by staring at the flagpole just to kind of get his bearings. Did you ever do anything like that when you were pitching? And did you know guys who needed that just to mentally focus on something?
Well, I think that is a psychological and a mental technique to maybe regroup and refocus. Where I think you pick something out, in the stadium, in your environment, and that sort of checks you, to lock back in. So I didn't know that about John. I know that, a lot of our players work with sports psychologists and mental skills coaches to help, that part of their game. So, but I have heard of that technique to sort of get recentered and refocused.